Superman and Lois. I remember when CW first announced that they were doing this show, I was shocked. I was shocked because back in the day, the whole point of Smallville was that they weren't allowed to do a show with Superman, the actual Superman character. They had to create a show that dedicated 10 years of Clark Kent before he put the cape and the tights on. And so I thought that maybe DC, Warner Brothers, whoever has that decision, would not allow for a TV show on broadcast TV, a CW network, to do a show with Superman as the main character. But they did. And there was a lot of cool things about the show. The fact that it was the same actor who played Superman on Supergirl, so effectively this was a spin-off. And the idea that this was Superman and Lois after they've already gotten together, after they've already been through the secret and the origins, and after they've already been married and had kids. So, sure, would it have been nice to have gotten a lot of that story or to have seen all of this play out? Yes, it would have been great. But to finally get to a point in Superman's life, a story about an older Superman, a father Superman, this was unique, this was special, and I was all for it. And for the most part, I have a lot of praise for this TV show and for the things that I do like. My issues are more the little things. For example, the first season, the main villain pretty much spawned from the idea that there's an evil Superman. I kind of roll my eyes. I sort of have to sit back and go, all right, we're telling the evil version of Superman story again. I feel like this is the go-to nowadays. There was a long time where people thought that Superman was too much of a Boy Scout or was too much of a goody two-shoes to be relatable or to be likable, and that's why we've had such a tough time making great Superman films. Ever since you had the Injustice video game, ever since you had stuff like Brightburn or The Boys with Homelander, or Invincible with Omni-Man. There are so many characters now who you describe them basically as what if Superman turned bad. Even in the Snyder cut of Justice League, Henry Cavill's Superman, they teased that someday, one day, he could turn evil, and I'm quite sick of it. I am. I'm sick of the idea that Superman turns bad or that it's so easy for a Superman character to turn bad. My favorite thing about Superman is that he is so good. He is pure-hearted. That because of the way the Kents raise him, he's this good, wholesome, hardened person. We have an alternate universe where Superman was evil, and that's another thing. Multiverse. How many other properties, superhero properties, or just other movies in general, are doing multiverse-like stories? Now, maybe you want to get it out of the way because the Arrowverse in general has done plenty of multiverse stories, has done plenty of stories where we've gone to different Earths and we've seen different variations of our characters. But maybe I just wanted something a little more grounded or a little more simple for Superman to tackle. It did lead to a lot of other characters joining the show, like John Henry Irons. Steel, no, not Shaquille O'Neal, but it is the character of Steel that I've been begging for them to redo this character in live action. Give him a good reason to show up in a Superman movie or property, and they did that. They did, and the actor who plays him is great. I even like the idea that on his Earth, he was married to that version of Lois Lane who was killed by evil Superman, and they have a daughter, Natalie, who she somehow, some way shows up on this Earth. It's kind of interesting. It's kind of cool. I do think that they don't spend enough time dealing with this. They don't spend enough time really fleshing out how bonkers this situation is, that they basically live with or interact with characters that look exactly like people who are close to them. The two sons that Superman and Lois have, Jonathan and Jordan. Again, I love the idea that Superman and Lois have kids. I love that they have sons. I love that it's a slippery slope when you're dealing with Superman having kids and whether or not they have inherited his powers, and if they did inherit his powers, what that will entail for them. But Jonathan and Jordan are assholes. They are. I know they're teenagers. I know they're high school age. So you're going to have moments where they don't tell the truth. You're going to have moments where they disobey their parents. You're going to have moments where maybe they can come across as whiny. But boy, I don't know, especially Jordan. Because Jonathan, he can be maybe a bully to his brother and he can have his douchey moments, but ultimately it's Jordan that I find the most frustrating because he's such a whiny little brat. And so when he does get superpowers, and he's the only one that seemingly has them, it's supposed to create an interesting dynamic. But if you don't go almost every other episode with Jordan crying or Jordan being upset, or especially when it comes to him dating this character Sarah, my god, Jordan is a bitch. He is. I'm sorry. Is Superman too weak? That's something that we can talk about a little bit, right? Does this show make Superman too weak? I think yes. You know, I get that he's very powerful in general. I get that a lot of comic books and movies have that issue where how do you make anything seem like it's hard for him to do? How do you make anything challenging for Superman? Especially when you don't always want to be lazy and use kryptonite. It's tough. It's damn near impossible. Believe me, I'm not saying it's easy. It would be nice to just see him be awesome. It would be nice to see Superman just be able to handle stuff easily. I know this isn't going to create the greatest dynamic between Superman and whoever his villain is, but even if you do a villain that's just for that one episode or just a more short-term villain, there are times when Superman is having issues with characters who aren't nearly as powerful as him or who are human. And I'm just like, really? He can't handle this guy? You have Lana Lang and her husband Kyle. Now, I'm always intrigued by Lana Lang ever since Superman 3 with Annette O'Toole and just the idea of Clark reconnecting with his high school sweetheart, his first crush. And then on Smallville, I completely fell in love with the idea of Lana Lang as Superman's first love. So here, it's more of a dynamic where I didn't know if Clark and Lana had some sort of a history. I didn't know if they were romantically involved because they just seemed very platonic. They seemed just like childhood friends, and that was it. And for the longest time, that's all that it was, which is fine, but it does make me wonder if they're only just friends, why do we spend so much time with Lana? Why do we have so much of a side plot with whether it's her running for mayor or if it's her and her husband, Kyle, cheating on her and then her finding out and them having this whole bad breakup where he's still trying to win her back, and we spend so much time with this, and for the most part it's engaging. I don't check out of the show ever. And it wasn't until season 2 where they did show some flashback moments where Lana and Clark did have a brief relationship and they could have been way more serious if Clark had been honest and told her that he was Superman, and they broke up because he didn't tell her. And so that made things a lot more interesting. That made things a lot more complicated. I don't know where we're going to go with that. Maybe season 3 we will dive in more to this being a love triangle. And maybe people don't want that because that's very cliche. Most of the first season's villain was this character, Morgan Edge, who at first I thought, okay, this is a very generic and boring villain that isn't going to be memorable. And then, with a twist, you find out that he's actually the brother of Superman, that he too was from Krypton, he too somehow survived the explosion of the planet. Look, this was a good twist. This was something I was not expecting, and this did make Morgan Edge way more of an intriguing character than he initially started out as. And any time that he shows back up in the show, especially for season 2, and he's more of an ally now. I don't know how much I love the retconning idea of like, hey, Superman, you had a brother that you didn't know about. It's like, wait, what? I mean, we already did this with him having a cousin in Supergirl. But once you start saying that, oh, hey, he also had a brother, and oh, hey, he also has a cousin, or oh, hey, Doomsday comes from his planet too, and Doomsday's here now, or whatever they end up doing to try to connect this all to the planet of Krypton, you gotta be careful. Another villain that and maybe people can debate on whether or not this is a villain, but Lucy Lane, Lois Lane's sister, who is the same actress that played Lucy on Supergirl. And I like this actress fine. You know, I don't have anything against her or her acting ability, but man, was her character irritating. I get that you want to have this idea that she always felt beneath Lois. She never felt good enough. She even felt like her father, didn't love her as well, and so she turned to this cult. She turned to this woman. She turned to this group of people to feel loved. I'm not saying that there isn't something to explore with that dynamic, but boy, they made Lucy so unlikable, so mean, so angry, and she did so many things that were unforgivable. Season 2, we saw a backstory for the Bizarro character, which I've always had an affection for Bizarro as a character because I just thought he looked cool. Once again, it's another plot of a different version of Superman that maybe isn't always the best, or that ends up turning somewhat bad. And we just did that in season 1, so to do it again with a different version of Superman that just so also happens to turn bad. But the main villain of season 2 was this character, Allie. And I know, we're constantly looking for threats of Superman to fight. They need to get to a point where they either become overpowering or they are already overpowering for him to have to physically handle. But I did not buy this Allie character becoming as strong as she was and being able to connect with her other self from the other Earth, and the two of them coming together, they became this all-powerful force that sucked the energy from Superman and was able to go around and unify everyone together with their other versions of themselves. I don't know, I thought this villain sucked. I did. I thought she was boring. I thought she was uninteresting. And I did not buy her physically going up against Superman. I didn't. I appreciate that the show wants to try other villains, right? We're not seeing Lex Luthor again. We haven't seen Zod. They haven't done a lot of the usual suspects in Superman's rogues gallery. And I appreciate that. I really, really do. I saw a lot of those villains, whether it was Smallville or whether it's the movies or the animated stuff. I have seen those characters told a number of times. So I'm not saying I want to see that all over again. But if we are going to create new villains, or if we are going to do the lesser known villains, I just want them to be more interesting, or I just want them to be more viable as a threat. So look, I know this video is almost dedicated to the negatives of this show, or the negatives that I have of this show. I want to make it clear, I do like this show. I do like watching this show. I am going to keep up with season 3 and going forward to see where the show goes. I do feel like overall this show is much better than the other CW superhero shows. So guys, let me know in the comments below, what do you think of Superman and Lois? Do you think I'm being way too nitpicky, or do you understand the complaints that I do have about it? Thanks for watching. Like, comment, subscribe. Later!